Welcome to tonight's episode of the Aliens and Cowboys Podcast. I'm Garrett. With me tonight is Nate.
Yellow.
We are missing Joe tonight. It's, a holiday week, so we're going to give him a pass on this.
He's celebrating the 4th of July a little early.
That's right. America's birthday coming up. Just as an announcement here, too, or kind of a disclaimer, because there are fireworks going outside like crazy, I do have dogs in my residence. If they start barking, I apologize. We're just going to work through that, so... Obviously, dogs don't like fireworks. Going forward, tonight's episode is going to be the Bourne Identity, which I'm super excited for. Disappointed Joe's not here for this one because he had not seen these trilogy. He has not seen this trilogy yet. Or I shouldn't say it's more than a trilogy now, but
Joe lives under a rock.
Yeah, Joe has this. If it's not on Netflix, Joe's not watching it. So that's why we kind of basically prescribed him this homework here so that he could get this movie watched because he's such a John Wick fan, and I needed him to understand that John Wick wasn't always the trilogy for action, and that the Bourne Identity, or the Bourne Trilogy, in my opinion, was kind of like the epitome of action trilogy up to this point.
Yeah. And after watching it again, there's some very borrowed themes in John Wick.
Yes.
From the Bourne trilogy.
I know that Joe did watch this movie, so we'll definitely get his opinion next week when we do the Bourne Supremacy. We're going to finish out this trilogy over the next 2 weeks. Couple things to announce. Just wanted to tell you guys that our spinoff podcast, The Watchman for Nixon, is up. It is on iTunes now. You can go out there and subscribe. It's a small little trailer where Joe and I are talking about that. There's also, I don't want to call it an original song. It's an original Joe song that he does a cover of Bob Dylan's Times Are A-Changin'. So if you can sit through the 2 minutes of us blabbing about the trailer, about the what to expect from that podcast, Joe sings for about 3 minutes. And he's got a voice like Fergie. That podcast is called The Watchman for Nixon. Again, that's going to only be covering the HBO series coming up this fall about the Watchmen TV show.
I'm really excited about it.
I am too. It's going to be good. Nate, unfortunately, is not a part of that one. He'll probably pop in every once in a while. We did not kick him off. He just has other obligations, and 2 podcasts are asking for a lot. So he'll pop in every once in a while.
I'm trying to... Fill in a guest spot here and there, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and some things leading up to that, since obviously that podcast doesn't start till the fall, and we don't even have a release date yet, we're going to put a few things out on that, not as much content. We're going to cover the Watchmen movie on that podcast, as well as we think V for Vendetta, since they're both Alan Moore comics.
I love V for Vendetta. Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
And we'll probably do a couple things leading up to just kind of breaking news on that podcast when we hear things that come out. So follow that one again, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family on that one. Go out there, leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps us gain a following and an audience on that. But let's get into some pop culture because there's a lot to talk about. One thing I know that Joe, we'll probably hit this harder next week with Joe, but he's excited for The Witcher. The Witcher stills, or the photos, first photos of Henry Cavill playing The Witcher came out. And so... Any thoughts on it? Did you see him?
I didn't see him. I saw the little itty bitty clip of him slamming a potion.
Okay.
And that's the extent that I've seen right now. And it's a Netflix show.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with with The Witcher. The only thing I know of it is I know you have the 3rd game, I want to say. And so I know from the box and watching you have seen what I've seen you play this video game that The Witcher has a beard. And so to see Henry Cavill without the beard, my only, obviously, viewpoint of The Witcher is he is white-haired with a beard. Okay? And again, I'm very limited. So when I see the Henry Cavill photos of him just clean-shaven, it just looks off to me because I don't know any better. So, again, Joe's super excited for that. He'll have more to talk about. Also, same thing, Stranger Things. We know Stranger Things came out either tonight or tomorrow. Joe probably will have that watched by the time we meet it. I won't.
We'll have to defer to him.
Yeah, exactly. And he can kind of give you some feedback on that. It'll be a while before I get to that show. I just have too many other things on my plate. How about you? Do you plan on watching Stranger Things?
Now that you brought it to my attention, yeah, I'm very interested in watching it.
I mean, I've heard good things about this particular season, that it's actually the best season. So that's exciting. But again, just so many things to watch.
We've touched on that as far as Stranger Things, how well they do with the setting and the timepieces that they do. And from the clips that I've seen, I think they do it justice 100% in at least the trailer that I've seen too.
Yeah.
It's interesting how much like influence you take into that too.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. So the other thing you wanted to bring up is you want to talk about the Knives Out trailer. So go ahead and start talking about that for a second.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you a question about it.
Okay, so I watched this trailer just today, and very awesome cast. It's got just a slew of awesome individuals. Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Toni Collette. Gosh, I'm running a blank now, but there's quite a handful of other names that you're going to recognize or people that you recognize in this. And it's a kind of a Clue type movie. To where it's a whodunit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of quirky. Like, it's serious, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. And what I took away from it the most is, like, Chris Evans, who's taken the role of Captain America, who's doesn't ever crack a smile, unfortunately, because he takes his life a little too seriously, plays a totally and completely different character in this. And I really enjoy that. And Toni Collette has an awesome portion of this trailer, too. And so does Daniel Craig. They just play such charismatic and enthusiastic characters.
Totally agree. I watched that today as well. I really am excited for that, too. Just interesting. I like classic, like Agatha Christie novels, like Hercule Poirot, obviously Sherlock Holmes. Maltese Falcon, right.
That's an oldie.
These ideas of these like whodunits are pretty great, right? Like Murder on the Orient Express. I couldn't understand, is Daniel Craig a detective in this movie, or is he like one of the family members? I couldn't tell.
I think he's a PI in this, is what I took away from it.
I know that Christopher Plummer plays the older man that assuming he gets killed, right? Like that's like the guy that has all the money, essentially.
Right.
So you brought up Chris Evans. My question to you is, knowing that he's probably done with the Marvel Universe, are we sure he's a good actor?
I like to think so.
Okay. I know that it's easy for me to make this comment because I know Joe's not here to defend Chris Evans. So I know that Joe's...
So now's the time to make it.
Now's the time to make this. Right. But are we sure that he's going to be a successful actor outside of this? Because prior to playing Captain America, he really wasn't in anything. He wasn't great in anything. He even tried a previous, Fantastic Four role.
The Human Torch, yeah. Yep. I blame Fox for that. They butchered that franchise. Snowpiercer.
Okay, I guess
if you have an opportunity,
I have not seen it, but I know it's on Netflix.
I really enjoyed that film, and it has an awesome twist at the end.
I think I keep thinking of it. Isn't he the guy from like Not Another Teen Movie?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he's that guy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to see where like these, and I don't think that's a National Lampoon's movie, but I kind of think about like back to like Ryan Reynolds playing Van Wilder, and just kind of where some of these guys got their comedic start. And how they turn out to be like these...
Yeah, but you're not a household name when you do those movies.
No, of course
you're trying to get your name out there.
No, but I would say that Ryan Reynolds makes his name as Van Wilder.
Oh, I would agree.
Yeah, that was a huge hit.
Too.
I don't think Not Another Teen Movie was a huge hit. I don't think Chris Evans built a career off that.
What else? Chris Evans was in The Losers.
Okay, with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
but again,
he plays a very charismatic role in that.
That movie's currently on HBO actually, but he's not. There's nothing that he's knocking out the park in this. And to be fair, I don't even think he's like necessarily the best actor in the Marvel series. I think your Chadwick Boseman's, your Robert Downey Jr.'s, your Benedict Cumberbatch's, even Scarlett Johansson's, I think are better acting portrayals. Even Mark Ruffalo.
He's just such a robotic character.
Yeah, maybe it's just...
And maybe you can blame Captain America as a whole as this is the goal, this is how I get to the goal. It's very like computeristic type. There isn't room for emotional.
I love taking shots at Captain America when Joe's gone. It's great because
God knows how many memes there are.
I know. I know that we generally poke fun at Joe when he's not here, but that's just because it's good because I know he listens to it.
It's easier to talk behind his back than it is to his face.
Yeah, because we're super nice to his face. All right, so I wanted to bring up something that over the weekend I had a chance to watch a couple movies I haven't seen in a while, and one of the movies I watched, I told you briefly, was Mission Impossible 3. So I'm a really big fan of the Mission Impossible series. I think it's actually surprisingly held up really well and is done very well, with the exception of movie 2, which I think is universally panned as the worst movie of the series.
So remind me, what is Mission Impossible 3, like, quick synopsis? Who's the bad guy in
So
that?
Philip Seymour Hoffman is the villain. He's an arms dealer. He's basically trying to deliver this weapon. It's basically the MacGuffin of the entire show, right? It's like the Infinity Gauntlet, per se. It's a weapon of mass destruction, essentially. It's not really a nuclear weapon, but it's called the Rabbit's Foot. And the entire point of this is they're trying to track him down to get this Rabbit's Foot. It's also kind of a revenge thing because Kerry Russell is in this movie as like a previous sidekick of Tom Cruise's who gets killed essentially at the beginning of the film. Spoiler alert. And he basically, he wants to basically avenge her, right? But it's directed by J.J. Abrams. And I think it's the only one he directed. I know he goes on and produces, I think, the rest of them, or a lot of them. But he directed this particular one. And I don't think it's the best Mission Impossible, but I think it's the most underrated. And I think it can make a case to be in the second or third best Mission Impossible movie. And I think Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P., is an underrated villain, and he might be the best villain of the series.
When you bring up Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think of, first of all, Along Came Polly.
Yep. Raindrop, making it rain.
He's so silly in that movie. He makes me laugh. I think of Mission Impossible 3.
Yep.
I think of Capote.
Yep. I think of
Very different role.
My favorite role of his is Charlie Wilson's War.
What's that one?
That's Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts about the U.S. backing basically the Afghanistan militia against the Soviet army in the 1970s. But Philip Seymour Hoffman plays this like disgruntled CIA employee, and it's just hilarious. He's just nothing but one-liners. It's really good. But back to Mission Impossible 3. Yeah. Again, he's a villain, and he's a really good villain in this movie. And like I said, I think he's the best villain of the series. Probably next to, I won't go any farther. If you haven't seen Mission Impossible Fallout, I won't go into that one at all. Go see that one. That one's really good. Or I shouldn't say go see it. It's not in theaters anymore, but definitely rent it, buy it, check it out. And then the second movie I watched I haven't seen in a while, Black Hawk Down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's really good. And I'll tell you, the cast of that movie is impressive. It might be the biggest cast I've ever seen.
Who's in it?
Who's not in this movie? Okay, so obviously this was like Josh Hartnett when everybody thought he was going to be a thing.
Oh, God, he's so hot, now.
But it's like the underrated people that are in this movie that are lesser roles. So, Ewan McGregor. Okay? Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
Okay? Tom Hardy.
No kidding.
Yeah. Tom Sizemore's great in this movie. Eric Bana's in this movie.
The Hulk.
Yeah.
One of the
Hulks.
One of the Hulks.
Yeah. Kim Coates is in this. And there's a million other people. If you just watch it, everybody's somebody you've seen in a million things. And it's just, Sam Shepard is like the general. It's just, what a superb cast. Of obviously the Black Hawk Down, the story of basically the UN forces in the Battle of Mogadishu in Somalia. And it's based on a true story. And if you have not seen that, I think it's by Antoine Fuqua, who does a lot of really good movies. I think he did Tears of the... I think it's by him. I could be wrong. He did Tears of the Sun. He did a couple other things. But I forgot how good it was. And some of the characters, like I said, it's funny because you go back and you see like Jeremy Piven's in it. You see some of these actors that like are clearly in lesser roles. Like Orlando Bloom this is I think pre Lord of the Rings, so he's not really well known in the United States yet. But again, Tom Hardy, it's the guy that I don't know the guy's name, but he played Mr. Fantastic in the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah, nobody knows his name.
Ian something. His first name's Ian, but he, like I said, just a good cast of people. So, next thing up on this, I want to go over a couple more things. You talked about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Far From Home was released yesterday.
Far From Home, correct.
So we're recording on the 3rd. I think it was released on the 2nd. And from the trailer, it looks good. Looks to deliver on everything that was built up in the original Spider-Man of this particular series run.
You said something about it might be the 23rd. It's the 23rd film in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, 23rd. Think about that. How many millions of dollars go into each film alone? Yeah. It's the 23rd in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, I like this. Is it Tom Holland? Is that his name? Yeah, Tom Holland.
I like this guy. I think he's really good. I hope he continues to do it for a while. What do you think
of Mysterio?
I'm not a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan.
No?
I never have been.
You're not a big JG fan?
No, I'm not a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan.
All right.
So I don't know much about Mysterio. Again, not a comic book guy. So obviously, up to this point, Mysterio has not gotten a lot of play in movies. So I don't know a lot about him, so I'll withhold like my criticism of that character. But just the actors, Jake Gyllenhaal, he's almost too good looking. I can't tell if he's supposed to be a villain at the start and he turns into like an ally.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm assuming based on the trailer.
So my mom bought me the original comics in black and white and like the anthology of all of the original, not all the originals, but like a ton of the originals. And Mysterio is sort of this special effects wizard on movie sets that eventually somehow converts into a villain, and everything he does is like kind of illusions.
So it's like a Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without the real power.
Without being a better actor.
He kind of confuses people. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know where they're going to lead into that, to where Mysterio presents himself as a hero of it. But if he's actually creating the villains to make himself look as the hero, then that's a whole different thing. So interesting. Visually, it looks super entertaining. Okay. I'm very interested to watch it.
I do plan on seeing it. I really liked the first one. I thought that that first one was probably the best Spider-Man. I still really like Tobey Maguire in the first Spider-Man.
You didn't like 2 or 3?
2 was okay. I think I would like 2 if I went back and rewatched it again. 3 I didn't like.
No, fair enough.
And I didn't see the. To be fair, I didn't see the Andrew Garfield. I didn't see that Spider-Man for good reason. I wouldn't care to see it. I think Tobey Maguire was really good, but I think this guy is the perfect Peter Parker stand-in. This kid, Tom Holland, and I think that like I said, I hope he continues to play it. I think they
superb casting with him.
Yeah, of course, and he fits right in. He's funny. You believe him. Like Tobey Maguire, I don't know how old he is, but he seems a lot older than where Tom Holland is at when they were playing the character. And I feel like Tom Holland fits in very well with like an adult cast and can hold his own with people like Robert Downey Jr. I don't think Tobey Maguire could hold his own against someone like the Guardians of the Galaxy. As far as like being comedic, being funny, the timing, I really think Tom Holland fits in very well with people like Chris Pratt and RDJ.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So before we get to the Bourne Identity, last thing I want to say is I haven't, since my Xbox is crapped out still, and it's been like 2 weeks, so I haven't been able to play.
You played it too much. You burned out the motherboard.
Must have been high score. I bought a book. I was listening to an old podcast on somebody I like to listen to a lot, and they were talking about this science fiction trilogy, and it won all types of awards. It's called The Three-Body Problem. And I want to say there's probably a bigger name to it than the actual of that, but I think this particular book is The Three-Body Problem. It's something about Chinese and American kind of like, I don't know, relations, but in regards to like, I just know that there's something about some distant planet hundreds of millions of light years away that's going to come to the Earth to destroy it, but it's like 450 years in the making. And so it's like, this is a trilogy that's going to, I guess, chronicle that. So I don't know a lot about it. I heard it, the way they talked about it sounded great. They described it way better than I am, so I'll just wait till I read it.
Do they prepare for this interaction with that?
I think they try to come up with their own force to
defense mechanism.
Build right.
Okay.
Now we'll see. I'll try to keep you updated if I stick with this book. Now if I get my Xbox fixed, probably won't. But we'll see how it goes. So anything else to add before we get to the Bourne Identity review?
No. Let's jump into it.
So, like always, what are your initial thoughts on watching this?
I think it holds water. I think it does really well over the test of time. This movie was created in 2002, or released in 2002. Yep. So we're talking, 17 years ago? Yep. I think it does really well.
Yeah, I did too. It's based off of a book series by author Robert Ludlum. Okay, and this is chronicled Cold War stuff. So I know that the character Jason Bourne, whose real name is David Webb, as you go farther into the series, you learn that he's a character that was basically discovered around Vietnam time, I believe, in the book series. And because the book series take place in the 1980s and deal with this actual real life villain at the time, his name is, I'm going to butcher his name, Ilik Ramirez Sanchez, or otherwise known as Carlos the Jackal. He's a real life hitman, and I believe he's currently if he's still alive, he's in jail in Spain or something. Okay, not joking. I remember looking this up way back in the day when I saw this. So the reason why they didn't set it in that setting is they felt in the 1980s that would have no impact on 2002, sure. Right? And so they move it towards the current time period, kind of in a way. So it's kind of nice. I think it works well, but I have tried to read the novel. There are some similarities to the first part of the movie. I think the movie's actually better.
It's got to be so unrelatable with technology.
It's tough. It's a tough read. It's not a great read. It's not an easy read, I don't think. And I think most espionage thrillers are pretty easy to read. I think that it's a little bit wordy. Not as easy as others. Or like you can get bogged down and stuff. And I think that the movie did a really good job and made a smart decision to move past that. I know that Robert Ludlum did the trilogy. I want to say somebody else picked up the mantle and did like 16 new books. So it's like there's a large Bourne Identity, Jason Bourne series out there with a lot of like, he has got a family, he's a professor, kind of like an Indiana Jones thing where he's like a professor of linguistics or like just stuff like that. It's just really weird. And his good friend is Conklin, who Conklin is played by Chris Cooper in this movie, who gets killed at the end of the movie.
His friend?
It's his friend, yeah.
In the books?
Yeah, so that's kind of some departures.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
Too late.
But I think that, so the reason why we covered this again is we said that Joe had not seen this series yet. And we had recently, you and I saw John Wick 2, John Wick 3, and...
Can we give a quick synopsis of what the movie actually is?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But just kind of going by, first thoughts watching this. So, I thought that up to this point, Jason Bourne was always the definitive action hero. Like, I know that Rambo and Commando and stuff like that are, huge characters. But I felt like, basically, ever since Jason Bourne came on the scene, I felt like that was a character that would destroy all other people. Like, if you put anybody after Jason Bourne, I felt like Jason Bourne would come out on top. Up to and including, I love Daniel Craig's James Bond, but I think Daniel Craig's James Bond couldn't take out Jason Bourne, right?
Okay, all right.
And I like the character, too, because they don't make him, overly powerful. He's not genetically enhanced. He's just really intelligent, and it's just, But I wanted, at the end of this, so pin this and remind me to come back to it, I want to have the conversation about John Wick versus Jason Bourne. Because I feel like John Wick is now assumed...
That was my future question.
Perfect. I feel like John Wick has assumed this mantle, and I don't feel like it's fair because even though I feel like John Wick might have more action as far as just headshotting people...
Five times?
I think that the Bourne Identity, if we just compare first movie to first movie, the Bourne Identity's entire story is just better. It's not like... as a dog person, I would want to go ballistic too if somebody killed my dog. But the story doesn't really go much more beyond that with John Wick, whereas Jason Bourne, I think, has a legit story. So, synopsis of this, Jason Bourne, played by Matt Damon.
He's skinny Matt Damon.
Yes, very young Matt Damon.
Which I noticed.
Yep. He's a CIA assassin. He works for a corporation or a company called Treadstone is what the name of their group is called. Basically, they do black-on-black ops, killing, assassin, hitman jobs, stuff like that. We know that he's en route to a mission, essentially, what we learn. He ends up not wanting to follow through with the mission, ends up getting shot, falls into the water, ends up getting amnesia. So the premise of the movie is he wakes up, he doesn't know who he is, but all of a sudden he knows that he has a bank account in his hip, he knows all these skills, he can beat people up, he can remember things, he finds a safety deposit box with guns and passports, and then all of a sudden he realizes people are trying to kill him. And he basically has to uncover who he is and why they're after him. So, and it basically follows through with his process to figure out, who is he and why does he not remember things. So, am I forgetting anything on that?
Nope.
Okay. What do you think? Anything else with the synopsis?
No, not really. It's just so unlikely that he would actually get amnesia from being shot twice and left in the ocean. But it's a good story starter.
Dr. Stevenson. This was directed by Doug Lima and written by Tony Gilroy, and they did some pretty interesting things. If I go to, say, Doug Lehman here, he did, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I really like. I'd like to cover that sometime. He did Jumper, Edge of Tomorrow, American Made, some couple Tom Cruise movies there. Gilroy ended up writing things like Michael Clayton. He also did Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which we probably would say is the best Star Wars movie. So he's been pretty successful. And he's wrote most of the Bourne, if not all the Bourne films that star Matt Damon. So he's been around for the entire process.
Do you remember, does this occur after Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's breakout?
Yeah. That was 97. I think Good Will Hunting's 97.
Okay.
Could be wrong,
This
though.
is 5 years later then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's do some casting changes. So, originally, they pegged Brad Pitt to be Jason Bourne.
God, they always do, don't they?
I like Brad Pitt, though. He ended up doing the movie Spy Game with Robert Redford, which is a really good espionage thriller.
Can you blame him? Robert Redford?
No, but I'll tell you, granted, I say this, but I know I really liked Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I don't know. Do you buy Brad Pitt as an action star?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of. Maybe the weird thing is, like, do you do it on the potential that it's going to be a trilogy? Because then you're committed at that point.
Yep.
To where Spy Game is just a single movie.
Right.
You're putting all your eggs kind of in one basket at that point.
Yeah.
With this Bourne Supremacy or Bourne Identity thing.
Yeah.
I'd probably write the move. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's just
He's
weird.
fun wherever he's
because up to this point, though, like if you think about as an action star, Matt Damon, he did do Ocean's 11 prior to this, so he's funny in that. But other than that, he hasn't really been.
But
in
no way
anything.
is he an action star in Ocean's anything.
No, and even in Saving Private Ryan, which came out before this too, he's not really an action star in Saving Private Ryan. Tom Hanks is more of an action star in that movie than he is.
Sure.
So he mostly did things like Rounders, Dogma, Talented Mr. Ripley. So I would think that this is kind of a departure for Matt Damon. But I do know that he got involved in the reason why they picked him was because he thought it was more to the character than just the action. They want to get to like deep character of like who is he, why is he doing this, stuff like that. He did get involved in the martial arts with like eskrima and like hand-to-hand combat and got into it. And I think he did his own stunts. So he kind of does some Keanu Reeves, John Wick stuff there.
I have a lot of respect for the actors that do their own stunts.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan might be an offset exception to where...
Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so crazy to think like you invest that much money into something like that. Jackie Chan might be an exception because he's from China and I don't know what kind of labor laws they have involved.
He was part of the Peking, I think it was called the Peking Opera, so it was like that was kind of like a gymnastics dance type martial arts. But like,
I'm assuming there's no OSHA in China.
No, but if you think about going to like Jackie Chan though, there's something about the reason why he does his own stunts I think makes his movies better. That what he's doing is like, wow, that's pretty impressive, and I know that he's actually doing it, so I feel like it just makes the movie better.
There's no rubber man syndrome.
No.
There's no quick like cut takes to where like you flash to a different position and watch it go through.
Right.
Like a dude with a wig go through a window.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So we'll go back to Matt Damon here. So Matt Damon gets casted. Other people they potentially tap to do this: Russell Crowe, Schwarzenegger, Cruise, and Stallone. And my question to you is, all those guys seem, and they are, but seem and look considerably older than Matt Damon's character would in this. And I feel like Jason Bourne has to be younger. Do you agree, or do you think he would be better served as an older man?
No, I agree. I think he does well as a young man.
Yes.
I also think it does real justice to Matt Damon to where he's like he appears as almost an innocent. To where he's not like intimidating.
Correct. He's not Schwarzenegger or Stallone.
He's not sitting there with like 5 foot wide shoulders intimidating somebody like, hey, I'm a spy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It doesn't fit the bill.
Well, and it's kind of interesting you say that because, like I said, after this trilogy, you kind of have to put him in as an action star. And you kind of have to put him in as the definitive action trilogy to that point. Like, you have to go back to probably Rambo as far as action stars to, like, really, as a character, come up with the name of somebody. Because, like, let's be fair, Jason Bourne's kicking the shit out of John McClane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? John McClane wouldn't be able to hold up against Jason Bourne?
No, he's just doing what he has to survive.
Right, exactly.
And doing it well, but he wouldn't hold a candle to Jason Bourne.
That's my point.
I agree.
And again, I think Rambo, you'd have to go back to Rambo, but even then, like, that's a completely different environment.
First blood.
Yeah, I don't think Rambo running through a city is going to track Jason Bourne. And I think that's what's kind of endearing about his character. So how about this? Young Clive Owen, cast as kind of like the main assassin of Treadstone.
Right. I had to look that up and figure out which assassin he actually was.
He's the professor.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I remember seeing Clive Owen. Do you remember seeing him in anything prior to this? In America, at least.
I didn't know him before this. I didn't know him in this, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't know him. I mean, even at the time,
I enjoy him as an actor, but I didn't know who he even was.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think it was much like a lot of U.S. films that he was part of. But he does get a career after this. And I'm going to butcher her name, but I want to say it's Franca Potenti. She's Marie. She plays the love interest of Jason Bourne. I did see her. I believe she's a villain in The Shield.
Okay.
So she kind of plays like, I want to say like an Armenian, like part of an Armenian crime syndicate in that show. And so I did remember her from that, but that very well could be post this though too.
I think she did a very good job acting in this.
Better than Julia Stiles.
Very much so. I'm in agreement with you. My only comment, so I just take like random notes as I'm watching the show, and my note was orange eyeshadow, not a good look. So when he first introduced, no, not on orange, but Matt Damon's love interest.
Oh, Marie, Marie, when she's in the embassy.
Yeah, when she's in the embassy, I'm like, okay, the hair, crazy highlights, all right, whatever.
That's why she's broke.
Yeah, she spent too much on the eyeshadow.
A couple other people in this. Chris Cooper plays Conklin.
He's a good actor.
He is very good.
He does very good.
But you know who else is in that?
Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins. And I was so excited. I'm a Goggin. I don't know what we call him.
You're a Gogster?
Gogster. Gogginator. Gogginese. But Walton Goggins is my guy right now. And again, it was just great to see him in there. And he should have been utilized more. But he wasn't, unfortunately. How about, is there anybody you would change? Is there anybody you could think of would have played a better, like say, would Marie be better cast as somebody else?
Who, I'm going to jump back a little bit. Walter Goggins, right?
Yeah. Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
There's another actor, Stephen Tucci? Tucci?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? He plays such prominent supporting roles, but he could never hold a prominent role himself. And I think that's kind of the same for Walton Goggins. They do so well as kind of this side character.
It's not Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci. Yeah.
He's
but they do so well. They're fantastic, but they just can't hold a film themselves. Where they always play a supporting role.
Sure.
And there's a place for them in Hollywood, obviously. Yeah. But they just have to know where their roles lie.
I agree, and I'm kind of I was talking to Joe about this. I watched the movie Predators. This was the Adrian Brody one. So this is not the new one that came out. This is the one prior to that. Lawrence Fishburne's in this. Walton Goggins is in this. I'm going to butcher the guy's first name, but it's like Mahershala Ali. He won Best Actor for
this movie.
Not Predators, but he was the guy that also starred in season 3 of True Detective. Like he plays Remy in House of Cards. He's just a really good actor, and he's in this movie with Walton Goggins. I'm like thinking of like the star power in this movie, and
I was like, nobody won an award for being in Predators.
No, they did not. Definitely not Adrian Brody either, or Lawrence Fishburne for that matter. But Walton Goggins has gone on and he plays the villain in the new Laura Croft movie. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the same. Like he's in Ant-Man. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So much more complex than that.
Yeah.
Just like he's in Justified, which I think is what you enjoy.
Yes.
As part of it. He's like, he has a good side, he has a bad side, but he has a moral code.
Yeah, he's just Machiavellian. He's just out to do his own thing. And I just don't. But again, he's also not the star of the show. I feel like he's the best part of the show, but he's not the star of the show. And Timothy Olyphant's clearly the star of Justified. But same thing with this. Like Vice Principals. When he does that, takes the comedic turn,
gosh.
Him and
so
Danny McBride, they're kind of like co-stars 50-50, but it's clearly Danny McBride's show. And Walton Goggins is in there as like best supporting, could be best supporting actor because phenomenal show. And, I think that he needs to go back to that. And again, I want to see him and stuff. I think he's good. I think he's, like Hateful Eight wasn't the main actor, but probably the best part of the movie.
That's so interesting, yeah.
So
it has such maybe a limited role, but holds so much weight.
Yes. Again, the first time I ever saw him was the old the new Karate Kid or whatever it was with Hilary Swank. he's in there as like a high school bully. He's one of like the villains, like he's one of the henchmen.
How much hair does he have back then?
I don't know. His hair was always crazy.
And this is coming from a guy that's been losing his hair since college, but so no judgment there. I'm just saying, like, how does he play a college kid without any hair?
He was like that with The Shield too. Any other? How about Chris Cooper? Do you like Chris Cooper? He plays Conklin.
I really enjoy him because he just the interaction that he has with the senior advisor, and I forget his name. He's
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox.
Yeah.
He's like, you've never asked any questions before, and you shouldn't either.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, this is my business, and I know where the responsibility lies, too. My head is on the line, so don't ask questions.
Yeah.
So you can keep yourself clean.
Yeah.
Go pretend to make speeches or whatever.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Okay. Yeah, he did. He's done really. I mean, he did a really good job. What about? Let's do Julia Stiles. Let's talk about Julia Stiles.
I had a comment in here, like, I'm wondering, were they trying to build up star power for this movie, right?
I'm not sure.
What is she coming off of that they're like, you know what, we need to cast Julia Stiles to be our fourth prominent role.
Probably Save the Last Dance, but I'm not sure.
That's what I was Julia Stiles, unnecessary star power. That was my comment in my notes.
I mean, she really is, because even going like, and she's in all four of the Bourne films. The star Matt Damon, right? And she's
Chris
not
Cooper just like, just not disowns, but just like disingenuizes like what she produces for the field.
So the problem is with her character though. So the premise of her character Nikki is she's supposed to be like a love interest of Jason Bourne's pre-amnesia. Okay.
Which isn't, you don't know anything about during the movies.
Right. So basically that's kind of what it's supposed to be, is that she is the pre-amnesia girlfriend. By the way, after Save the Last Dance, this is basically what she's got. She was in that movie O. I think it's based off like the Hamlet play Othello. But no, she's Saved the Last Dance and then came into this. The problem is she gets outacted by Marie, the actress Marie. Absolutely, who I think is definitely, you need Marie because Marie is basically like kind of the heart of the show to kind of explain like Matt Damon doesn't have to be an assassin. There's an alternative path that he can live, and she's kind of that conduit to get to like, hey, you can be a good person.
I'll be the bad guy here. I think Julia Stiles is more attractive than Nick
Franca.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Do you agree?
Yeah, but Julia Stiles' character though, the problem with her I have is that she gets outacted in this movie. And she's going to get completely outacted going forward when Joan Allen joins the cast in the second movie, because she's way more of an important figurehead as a female character as far as like taking over the investigation of Treadstone. And Joan Allen's a really good actor or actress. Sorry, and basically I don't want to say neuters Julia Stiles' character, but makes her not really important. Like they force her into the storyline.
She emasculates her
just
as another woman.
She's so powerful and strong and aggressive that there's no reason for Nikki to be there. The only reason why Nikki's there is basically she is a person that Jason Bourne arguably remembers, and so he's a conduit to be able to like keep talking to them through her. And so it's almost like she doesn't serve any purpose until really the fourth Bourne movie.
Yeah, I've never really understood. I'm still making the jump. So I just watched Identity, and I forget how Supremacy, the second movie, actually works. I forget why Treadstone even cares at that point, because the senator, spoiler alert, cuts ties with Treadstone
at the end of the movie.
Right. So why do they have any inclination to go after Jason Bourne at that point?
So basically, the premise of the second movie is somebody frames Jason Bourne for a double murder at the beginning of the movie, and so Joan Allen, her agents get killed. And she tracks a fingerprint left at the scene that's to Jason Bourne, which opens up Treadstone. And so she starts delving back into it. And then her and Brian Cox do the old butting heads of power. But with Marie there, I don't know why you need Julia Stiles. Because even in the second one, which, spoiler alert, Marie gets killed right at the beginning of the movie, and that's the premise of the movie. So if Nate
you said it, not me.
If Nate said it, not me. So the premise of the movie is Marie gets killed, and he goes on a revenge tour, basically. But Joan Allen, like I said, is introduced, and she's a really strong character that really goes head-to-head with all of her male superiors. And, again, makes Julia Stiles out to be weak and not necessarily needed. Outside of, like, Jason Bourne recognizes her and wants to talk to her. So, I don't know. I just don't think she's much needed in this movie as... So, especially, here's the other thing, too. She's not really needed in this movie because all of their communications are through cell phones. They text those guys, they say, prep and move, get to this location. She has nothing to do but hand Clive Owen a message outside the
That's one thing I've noted, too, is, like, how these ghosts pop up out of nowhere. Without a single word, they take a document or a phone and then they walk off. Like, as cleanly as possible. In an airport or whatever, which I assume how covert ops work.
This is 2002.
I don't know.
You think that this is like post 9/11, so everything's video cameraed.
And then they just walk away.
But again, all communication between Treadstone, like Chris Cooper's character Conklin, and these assassins are through these cell phone messages.
Yeah.
Like for the
flip phones, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That does
not age well.
Right. So
that's what I had.
The fact that they make Julia Stiles meet up with Clive Owen to say that they're at this little farmhouse. It's not needed. It wasn't needed. It's like, again, it's forcing her into the story. Anyways, we'll get off Julia Stiles for a while. But Franca, really good as Marie. Best scene? What's your favorite scene in this movie?
Favorite scene in this movie? I really enjoyed the farmhouse scene where he goes out to find the sniper, which is Clive Owen.
Yeah, and the professor. Yeah, and he blows up the car. He's got the double-barreled shotgun.
Just the whole build up to it.
Yeah.
Where he finds out that the dog hasn't been found.
Yeah.
And how he goes about actually. How do you find a sniper?
Yeah.
How do you avoid contact with him? And then how do you shoot him with the double-barrel shotgun?
Yeah.
It's funny. The whole premise of this movie is that Jason Bourne is the underdog.
Yes.
And he is not the underdog in any capacity.
No. So
no matter what situation he's brought in.
To be fair, his character is supposed to be the best assassin Treadstone has. So he's supposed to be the number one. And it's funny you bring that scene up because it's like Clive Owen's character should have every advantage over Jason Bourne in that scene. He's got clearly the better weapon. He's at the high ground. He's the one that runs away, and somehow Jason Bourne hunts him and tracks him to a field and somehow is able to outmaneuver this guy. And it's really... I mean, obviously, again, it speaks to this Jason Bourne character, his intelligence, how he circles around, he causes a diversion, he fires the shotgun in the air to let the birds spread, that way, as he walks through the field, you can't see him coming. Right.
Yeah.
So, again, which I'll get to why I love Jason Bourne as a character, but it just outmaneuvers him. My favorite scene, I think, is, and I know we'll talk about this later with you, the first assassin that comes through his French Paris apartment. And he does that battle
with the submachine gun.
The submachine gun. He does the battle with the pen.
Right, yeah.
And the guy jumps out the window. Up to that point, I don't think I've seen a fight scene like that where the guy used a pen and the way he used the pen and jabbed it in his hand and he pulls out the hand. Just as far as a weapon. I really enjoyed that scene. I also really liked that scene right up to that point where they're Marie's trying to go take a shower essentially and the water's not running and Jason Bourne's walking around the apartment with a knife. And she comes out and he basically just drops the knife into the wooden floor. Way to ruin those nice wooden floors.
Way to ruin my sneak attack.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh, I do. My favorite quote is when they're in the car and they're about to go into that apartment. And she mentions... Jason Bourne offers, you can come up with me or you can wait down here and I can clear out the apartment and make sure you're cleared to go. And... she kind of says, well, if I wait down here, you'll just forget about me.
Yes.
And Matt Damon just says, how could I forget about you? You're the only person that I know.
Yeah. I had two things I really liked. I really liked that one. I like the one where before, outside the embassy, after he tears up the embassy, and he's trying to convince her to drive him, and he throws her the money. And she's like, I don't know. And he goes, okay. Can I have my money back? And she just sits there.
That's a classic sales tactic,
exactly.
Right? It's like, why don't you take a test drive?
Hold the money. Get it in your hands. Yeah. You need the money. Yeah, I like that.
Test drive my car and then tell me you don't want it.
I also like the conversation with the professor. Because after he shoots the professor in the field. Because that's going to come back into the Bourne Ultimatum at the end of the third movie. He's going to talk about, he's like, look at what they make you give. Okay? And this is Clive Owen talking to Matt Damon.
Yeah.
After Matt Damon shoots him before he dies. He goes, do you get such headaches? He goes, I get such terrible headaches when I drive. It's the headlights. And he's talking about what does this agency in this life make you give? And he's like, look at this. It's basically he's dying alone in a field. And at the end of the Bourne ultimatum, Jason Bourne is going to make that same comment to Edgar Ramirez, who's the assassin in that particular movie, kind of towards the end of the movie where he's about to get shot, and he's like, "Look what they make you give." Because do you even know why you're doing this?
Yeah.
And I like that because again, these guys are all the same job. They're all the same occupation. When they meet up in the field, he goes, "What are you? Germany, Paris?" And he's like, "I'm Paris." Berlin, Paris, and he's like, "That's they're just cities to these guys."
It's so like such a throwaway culture
Yeah.
type situation. You're like, who are you? Okay, well you'll be replaced tomorrow.
Yeah.
With somebody else, and this is our situation. You
Yeah.
know? It's so like matter of factual to them that they don't even think like emotionally in any capacity about like the quality of life or anything.
Yeah.
For themselves.
Absolutely. How about one item, gift, or advice you would give to a person?
How convenient is it that an embassy is right near the same bank that he just pulled all that money and information from? To that's what I pulled away from. Like, how close are you to this safe zone that you can just run in that quickly? That's the biggest thing that I took away from it.
The only piece of advice I would give would be to Conklin, played by Chris Cooper, who gets shot at the end of the movie, to know where all your assassins are at. Because that third assassin is the guy that shoots him at the end of the movie. And we don't see that guy again until Bourne Supremacy. Know where your assets are. Know where your killers are at. You know what I mean? If you work for a CIA killing force, make sure that you're not one of its targets.
Pros to the senator that went above and beyond him and goes, we need to clean this thing up and we need to get rid of him.
Yeah. I like that because both those characters will come back in the next one. Most cowboyish scene?
Cowboyish scene. I think it's when he blows up the propane. I still think it's when he's on the farmhouse.
Yep.
He blows up the propane tank to create a distraction.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine you have a very focused lens when you're looking through a sniper.
Yep.
Lens, and he starts just robotically like running through the forest.
Yep.
It's just,
yep.
Turn left.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. I think mine's got to be the fact that he just takes down the embassy. He walks in, and it's like, you could probably make the argument up to that point, he's not fully aware of what he can do. I know he does hurt the two cops outside at the beginning of the movie, where he's like sleeping on the park bench.
That's a weird situation. And I had a comment about that too. Like, that action sequence is very herky-jerky.
Yeah,
to where it's flash, 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 almost where they cut the scenes.
Yes.
And you don't see that ever at all throughout the rest of the movie at all.
But where he goes in the embassy and they say, like, red bag, stop right there, and they come up and grab him, and he just takes them all out.
Yes.
And then he just kind of, like, walks up methodically to the top floor as high as he can go. And the entire time, like, the Marines are, like, engaging and trying to search for him, and he just keeps his calm, cool, collected. Just got to get out. His training essentially comes back, to him. And it's
all instinctual.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where I'll talk about why I really enjoy this character is, and I know you might have some problems with this too, is he uses his environment. So the embassy is a great point because he doesn't know where he's going, and the first thing he does is, well, first off, he knocks the guard off the stairs and walks backwards to grab the radio.
Yeah.
And that way he can just monitor communication, right? Very impressive. The next thing he does is he doesn't know the layout of the building, so he grabs the fire chart or the fire escape route sign off the wall. And that way he can see where he's walking to. I mean, just stuff like that. It kind of harkens back to when he's at the farmhouse and he finds the shotgun shells in the desk, right? And if you look at his character, he's looking around the floor and he sees all the toys on the ground, okay? And what he realizes is, if there's a gun, it's not going to be where kids can get to it. So then he directs his attention higher. And he starts scanning the room and finds the bookshelf. At the top of the bookshelf, he walks over and grabs the gun. I liked that.
Even when they step into that setting, he busts in the door while she's looking for a key. He doesn't care. He's more about efficiency. Walks in, sees that there's a Christmas tree, goes, we have to go now.
Sees the lights that are
other people that are in danger right now.
Yes. Yep. Not only that, but even so, like when they're having, and they kind of speak to this, kind of harkens back to like trying to describe what his character is. When they're having dinner at the diner, And he says, I can remember all the license plates of the 6 cars out front. I can tell you the guy up this is this weight. He knows how to handle himself. And the best place to find a gun is this cab gray truck outside. And I can run for a half mile before my hands start shaking at this altitude.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you what my name is, basically. Right. And I think it just goes to show you that I really enjoy this character because he uses his environment. And I know that, he finds a pen on the desk to fight a guy with a knife. In the second movie, he's going to fight a guy with a magazine. In the third movie, he's going to kill a guy with a book, right? And there's a lot of things he does that I think is, again, to his advantage. He doesn't carry weapons with him, really, and so he has to utilize what's available to him. And I think that's what makes his character endearing as far as an action star. Going forward to what doesn't age well in this?
Flip phones.
Agreed.
Pay phones.
Yep.
Which I have not visited Europe, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's a whole lot of those left.
Yeah.
Those are two of the biggest things for me.
Yeah.
Just that's not very realistic at this point.
One thing, and I could be wrong, I get the feeling that he wouldn't get far. Especially after tearing up an embassy, the CCTVs, I think, would have him at every corner. They wouldn't be able to, even if he outrun the cops, they'd keep the same car. I don't get the feeling that he would be able to escape. Do you agree, disagree?
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more. I would like to feel that there's a lot more intercommunication between different authority figures.
Yeah.
That the local authorities would stop him until the authorities that knew the true issues that he had done at that point they would catch up to him.
Yeah, I agree. What about amnesia? What about amnesia as a reason as a catalyst for why this whole story begins? Do we need amnesia?
I think that's a fault of the system of the Treadstone deal, to where they need to report every 24 hours or whatever it is. And because they didn't receive that report, they just go off the deep end and just make these assumptions that he did things that were outside of the interest of the United States at that point. Yeah,
and that's the thing, too. The whole time, Treadstone doesn't realize what he's doing or why he's doing it. So they're just assuming he's gone rogue.
And they just assume the worst, and they need to kill him instantly.
Right. Well, they do make the comment that he's a $30 million malfunctioning weapon. But what I'm just talking about as far as, is there another way to make this story happen without amnesia, without the memory loss? Or does the memory loss have to take place because that's what makes his character... Is that what catapults the story? Because what if he just decided, I don't want to kill people anymore?
Maybe you don't have a quadrilogy or whatever, but maybe he does try to escape the boat. He has a change of heart as soon as he sees the children on top of the father that's in the boat, and he turns around and says, this isn't the life for me. And I don't know that the amnesia really matters so much.
Yeah, I mean,
you fast forward a lot more into the trilogy, but
yeah, and I mean they'll play into it even up to the third movie where he's still catching flashbacks of him becoming Jason Bourne, because his real name's not Jason Bourne, right? That's his code name, and he finds that with all of his passports,
and that's the Bourne Identity,
right?
He's assuming that he is the Bourne Identity,
right? Because his real name is David Webb as they kind of go forward in it. I don't even think you find that out till the second movie, but yeah, I agree with you. Cell phones don't age well. I don't know if his ability to travel as far as he does, like I said, without being caught, without even if he's not using a train, even if he's not using a plane, but the idea of using cars in the cities that they're in with toll roads, toll booths. Yeah. I just think they would have snagged him earlier. I shouldn't say. Well, I mean, they're in Europe too. And Europe is maybe it's not just Europe in general. Maybe it's London, but CCTVs, are all over the place. And,
right.
Those cameras are going to.
You know what doesn't age well? CRT monitors. You go to one of the most sophisticated CIA agencies, Treadstone. You go down in the basement with Chris Cooper, and they've got 3 monitors. Yeah, but they're all CRT monitors. They're 2 feet deep.
It's those aren't 4K.
Those are not 4K.
Yeah, those are not flat screens.
And they're like, enhance. That ability, I think that's such a farce in movies.
Yeah.
To be like, you are limited by the hardware capacity of that camera. You can only enhance to a certain capacity.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's nitpicky.
I think the who won the movie is obvious. It's Matt Damon. He
I was
creates
going to say Julia Stiles. But
he creates arguably the best action star up to this point with this movie, and it had a budget of $60 million and made $214 million. It makes him an action star, which he was not prior. So I think that's important. Pretty impressive. And again, I think it just sets this tone here. They obviously went on to make two more, really, a series of this. So they made an original trilogy. They made the Bourne Legacy, which was a spin-off with Jeremy Renner that takes place at the same time as the Bourne Ultimatum, which is the third one. So those are two characters that exist at the same time. Okay?
But he's not in that one.
But then he comes back for Jason Bourne, which is the fourth one.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because
it's like a natural progression, too. I mean, where do you go from the Bourne identity?
Right. With the Bourne Legacy, though, they clearly show that there is a world to build because they talk about Treadstone. At the end of the movie, with Brian Cox, when he's talking to the senators, he brings up Black Brian. And Black Brian will have huge implications in the third movie. So Treadstone is like one aspect of the overarching umbrella that is Black Brian. And that will really become like the main catalyst for the Bourne Ultimatum, which is the third one, about trying to track down Black Brian and like these psychologists and the people that really started Treadstone is the Bourne Ultimatum. And it's kind of a throwaway line here. It has major implications to come back. But again, even so, like not having Jason Bourne in the Bourne Legacy movie, but having it exist in the same realm, they talk about Jason Bourne in that particular movie. Like I said, there's a lot of assassins. There's a world to build here. There's assassins that live in... Like, each assassin has a city. There's a network. Stuff like that, right? It's interesting. Do you think that they should leave this alone? Would you like to see them reboot it or provide another Matt Damon sequel?
I don't want to see Matt Damon again. This one. I think there's a lot of world building to do here. I really think with as far as the genetically modified... assassins? They
don't genetically modify them in the trilogy. They do it in kind of the Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner.
So like a side spin-off with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
The whole capacity of you have to come back and you have to get your whatever thing that
the medications.
Yeah, the medication
that
restricts whatever the onset of the symptoms are. I think there's a lot of world to build at that point.
Yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, like I said, it's based off the Robert Ludlum character from the Bourne books, and somebody had picked up the mantle and wrote like 16 total books. So it's grown exponentially. And again, they made him like a professor. He's got like a family. They've done a lot of things like that. I don't know. I think they should leave it alone. I can see them remaking this someday. Obviously, Hollywood always revisits everything. I just don't think they need to do it yet, considering Jason Bourne came out in 2016, was not as well received as the other ones.
Yeah, I even asked you tonight, like, I didn't even know there was a movie called Jason Bourne.
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's just like, so I personally, I think people don't like the second Bourne Supremacy as much as they do like the other movies.
Sure, yeah.
I really like the Bourne Supremacy a lot. I know that the Bourne Ultimatum is really good. Some people, I was talking to a coworker, and he said that he thought the Bourne Ultimatum was like peak Jason Bourne. And it's hard to argue that, because I think the Bourne Ultimatum does a really good job.
Because he really comes to it in his own. He has an objective, and he's full with the skills. Yeah. He understands what he's capable. Okay,
yeah, all right. It's really good. But I think the second one, and I like the second one, the villain's, the assassin he kind of goes up against is Carl Urban. Really like him. He's Dredd. He's McCoy in the new Star Trek franchise. So he's plays
in Doom.
Yeah. He's in Lord of the Rings. I just like that.
I like Carl.
Yeah, I like that character too, and he plays a really interesting assassin to go up with Jason Bourne. But let's get to the real argument here. So again, let's just say first movie, John Wick or Jason Bourne or the Bourne Identity. Which one do you prefer?
I like Jason Bourne for kind of the worldly aspect that it brings.
Okay.
It's not so localized. It's not so like cliche as far as he killed my dog and I'm out to get him because I was the world's best assassin.
Right.
Like, it doesn't quite fit the setting very well.
So what we're gonna do as we do the next Bourne, the other two Bourne movies, because we're probably not gonna do the Bourne Legacy, and we probably won't do Jason Bourne. So we'll just stick to the trilogy. We've seen the John Wick trilogy. So after the second one, I'm going to compare these again. Where are we at? Do we like the John Wick second movie versus Bourne Supremacy? But also what I want to talk about is, do you believe that John Wick... Now, granted, Jason Bourne would never go after John Wick. Not in this capacity.
In a one-on-one situation?
Yep. If Jason Bourne...
Mortal Kombat?
If John Wick was given a marker to kill Jason Bourne, could he do it?
Just based on movie 1 to movie 1,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
Identity to just John Wick.
Yep.
I would have to put my chips on Jason Bourne.
I agree. I don't think that John Wick... To be fair, I don't think John Wick's a tracker, necessarily, in the way that he would need to be to catch Jason Bourne, who's kind of doing a John Connor to the best of his ability to live off the grid.
He's more of a blunt instrument,
yes.
Whereas Jason Bourne is the scalpel.
Yes. He's the, I'm going to walk through and headshot everybore.
5 times.
Right, and I think that's one of the reasons why... I think that's one of the reasons why people love the John Wick series so much, is it's like just pure gore and violence. And the headshotting is, there's not a lot of movies that you saw that with prior to this. Prior to like just... Because most of the time in most action movies, if you harken back to like Die Hard, you see a guy get shot 1,000,000 times and then he falls over. This is like one shot, one hit quit. Like boom, boom, down, next guy. And it's almost arguably more realistic in a way. You're expecting this guy to be like a trained weapons master, with firearms. But hand-to-hand combat would be interesting because John Wick does like the jiu-jitsu thing on the ground and stuff, but I don't know.
He has a lot of close combat.
He does.
Gun battles.
Yeah.
And knife battles, too.
And that's why I would really like to see... I don't think he would take Jason Bourne either. I don't. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure that either.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because I'm interested to see what Joe would have to say, because Joe rides hard for Keanu Reeves in the John Wick movies. So as we continue on, I want to keep that debate alive. At what point do we think does John Wick overtake Jason Bourne? And so at this point, we'd have to say that Jason Bourne is a definitive action star. Do you agree?
I would agree.
I would think so too. Is there anybody else you can think of action star canon that you would think would be able to? And I'm not talking like Predator. I'm not talking Terminator. I'm not talking not real character, like not ideally people. So is there any action star character that you think, like Hitman 47? James Bond.
I created a whole list for you to choose.
Ooh, go ahead.
Who your favorite quote-unquote spy
okay, go ahead.
actually is. I'll start off with 007.
Daniel Craig.
So hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. It could be whatever 007 you picture for this,
Daniel
right?
Craig, baby.
Austin Powers.
Yeah, baby.
Ethan Hunt.
Ooh, I like Ethan Hunt.
George Smiley from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Okay.
By Gary Oldman. Jack Ryan.
Are we doing Ben Affleck Jack Ryan, or are we doing John Krasinski Jack Ryan? Or Harrison Ford Jack Ryan?
Or are you doing... It's your choice.
It's my choice. Okay.
The character itself. Sidney Bristow, which is Jennifer Garner's Alias.
Alias.
Sorry, excuse me. Alias.
Yep.
Harry Hart from The Kingsman.
Okay.
Harry Tresker from True Lies.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Black Widow.
ScarJo.
Or Evelyn Salt, if that really is her true name.
Or you forgot Atomic Blonde.
No, I didn't add her.
I like Atomic Blonde.
You really like it?
Yeah, it's good. It's... Okay, so... I thought about this because I've been watching...
Select your favorite and tell us why you think it's your favorite. Because there's different categories of why you think they're your favorite spy.
As far as my favorite spy?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. So, when I think of spy, I want to say I think of like psychological, thriller.
Like your Joe Schmo? No one can recognize them, but they have like a huge capacity for damage?
It's tough because when I think of spy, I don't think of John Wick as like a spy, right? Because he's just killing everybody.
I would agree. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The problem is you don't see Jason Bourne really doing a lot of spy things in this first movie. He's not really like infiltrating anything.
Not so purposefully as like purposefully. He's like, I don't know who I am and how do I get in here.
Like, if all these,
he goes in the bank.
If all these you take like say, like when I think of spy, I think of like say True Lies. At the very beginning of the movie, he infiltrates and tries like the tango, and he's doing the dancing, and he's trying to get like the computer system, right?
Right.
But like the ultimate out of your list, the ultimate spy has to be Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible 1. This guy breaks into CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, right? It's an actual, and what's so crazy is where they take the Mission Impossible series. The first movie itself is nothing more than a spy thriller.
Absolutely. It's very limited action. Yes. It's so very limited.
Right. So I would say, based on being the best spy, I'm going to go with Ethan Hunt. Because, really, to be fair, Daniel Craig... They've really shifted Daniel Craig, or James Bond, post-Jason Bourne. If you think of all the other James Bonds, he's not doing the type of action that Daniel Craig's doing. And it's because it's a response to the Jason Bourne series.
That's a very interesting comment, to see how the twist on a spy is no longer a thriller, necessarily, so much as it is an action movie. Right, and
all of these, for the most part, True Lies turns really into an action movie.
Yep.
The Mission Impossible series goes into an action movie.
So let's go through this. 007, for the most part, everyone knows who 007 is. Action movie. Austin Powers. I would
actually make the argument that Austin Powers is actually one of the better spies because it's actually him infiltrating a lot more things in disguises.
Yeah.
What about Master Disguise with Dana Carvey?
Turtle.
Yeah. So, but
God, no.
I think of like infiltrating in that sense. So so
maybe Alias with Jennifer Garner.
I've never seen it, but I've heard it's amazing.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I heard it's really good.
Just based on Alias, that sounds like a very applicable.
What about? I would think that not the Kingsman, because that's more of an action movie.
It is so much more of an action movie. Yeah.
True Lies, like I said, he's got that.
He's got
the beginning.
Jack Ryan, no, because everyone knows who he is.
Yeah, I think it depends on which Jack
Ryan.
People
who care, actually know who he is.
Well, the Ben Affleck one.
There's no infiltration.
The one time Ben Affleck paid him was called Sum of All Fears. It's Ben Affleck,
Morgan Freeman. Yep.
He is playing a spy. He's got an alternate job that's not supposed to be. Kind of like John Krasinski kind of does in the Jack Ryan series. He has the cover of not being who he is, which I think is interesting. But he's not really infiltrating things. Who was the female you brought up?
Sidney Bristow, which is Alias, Jennifer Garner.
So can't speak to that.
Black Widow, Evelyn Salt, Angelina Jolie.
Yep, I like that. I think Black Widow would be really good.
Yeah.
Here's a question to you, and I'm not joking. Do you think Black Widow could take down John Wick?
It seems like she knows jujitsu just as well as
I think Black Widow. I think Black Widow is the best hand-to-hand combat fighter on this list. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is great. And the thing is, she should have had her own movie earlier, but because of things like Salt, because of like Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence and Atomic Blonde, they've kind of made it so like we don't need to have the movie. I feel like Scarlett Johansson should have had her own movie way back in the day.
I think there's going to be a fantastic background to what makes Black Widow Black Widow.
I agree with you.
So I think it's going to be a great movie.
But I here's the thing though.
I can see that.
I haven't seen Alias, so again, I can't speak to Jennifer Garner. I have heard it's really good. I like J.J. Abrams' thing, so I'm assuming it's really good. But I think the best hand-to-hand fighter on this list is definitely Black Widow, followed by Daniel Craig's Bond, and then Ethan Hunt. Because what I like about Ethan Hunt is he's not an amazing fighter. They don't make him... I mean, he's a fighter. He can defend himself. He's a spy. He's an action guy. But he's not to the level of, like, Jason Bourne and John Wick.
Yeah.
But
in the words of RDJ playing Iron Man, I want one.
Yeah. No, it's great because I think Ethan Hunt's the best spy on this list. I do.
Okay.
Because every one of those movies he's infiltrating something as an alternate identity, which is like spy level stuff.
I would agree.
But again, as far as like, do I think Ethan Hunt could infiltrate and take out Jason Bourne? I don't. I think Jason Bourne right now has got to be the champion. He's holding the belt. But I do like True Lies. I haven't seen that movie for a long time. I would need to see that movie, but that's a good list of people.
I want to watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I haven't seen that for a long time either. I'm trying to think if there's anybody we're missing off this list.
Any of you?
Yeah,
that was off the top of my head.
No, that's a good list. I like that list. Again, I like ScarJo. Atomic Blonde should be on here. You should watch Atomic Blonde if you haven't. It's really good.
All right.
It's Charlize Theron, and she's kind of the female version of John Wick.
I really liked her in is it is it a sci-fi flick
Fast and Furious movie?
Eon Flux?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is...
I did really enjoy that movie, actually.
There's been rumor of a Atomic Blonde John Wick crossover because they're from the same creator. And Atomic Blonde takes place in like 1989 and like fall of the Berlin Wall, Cold War type stuff. Really interesting spy thriller.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It's worth checking out. It's pretty good. Not as good as John Wick, but it's good. What I like about it is the realism of, like, you know how John Wick gets hit by cars and somehow survives?
Yeah.
They don't really go to that extent with her. Like, she kind of gets beat up a lot. She's not the hand-to-hand combat fighter that John Wick is. Like, they do a scene where she's just, like, you see her post. Like, you see her, and then they go back in time and explain how she got to this point. And her body's just, like, bruised to all hell. And, like, it just shows you what she went through. So it's like, she's a legit spy. She's an action star. It was believable. She's not like, I'm going to run through everybody to the degree that John Wick does. It's much more, like, realistic. Because let's be fair, John Wick can't do what I don't know. John Wick's not realistic in my opinion.
Yeah, the only thing they do, like, in the script for that is to say that he has a will above all others, essentially.
Great.
Is like... That's the preface. That's how he survives car...
I don't want to spoil this for people who haven't seen it, but I'm going to. For like, remember that in John Wick 3, they kind of go into more of like some of his backstory as they go to like Angelica Houston's like Russian ballet / a mercenary school, and they kind of show you that this is where Giovanni or John Wick came from, and that you don't see it back, flashbacks of his training, but you know that you see what other people are going through, and you know that John Wick came from this arguable ideology and school of thought, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see that he's clearly trained in things.
He's walking through the classroom, seeing those young men just getting the shit kicked out of him, and he's going, "Yep, been there."
Yeah, exactly. And that's about the most you get out of his backstory.
Yeah.
But you know that based on your context clues, what he went through.
Yeah, you don't know what differentiates him
right.
other than the stories and the lore that's alluded to in the script.
Correct. But like I said, same thing with Jason Bourne. You know that Jason Bourne's trained the same way all the other operators are, but supposedly he's somehow
just
better.
that much more successful.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he is. Think about it. He completely dismantles Treadstone by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
He kills 2 of the 3 assassins that he knows of, and he's going to kill a 3rd one in the next movie.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about $1 billion in losses.
Shut it down. Shut it down. So, do you have anything else to follow up with Jason Bourne Identity?
Quick facts. Moby did the theme song.
Great.
Yeah. Extreme Ways. Don't listen to the lyrics, but you'll absolutely know the actual dun 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 dun. Anyway, Moby of all people did that.
Okay.
Not very sanitary surgical tools.
Okay.
In the very beginning, he did 3 pull-ups on camera.
Ooh.
Which I want to point out.
Nice.
Which I could do in my shape.
I don't think you could do 3 pull-ups.
All right, we should post this.
Yes. Do you really think you could do 3 pull-ups?
I weigh a lot right now.
Do you think if you went to a complete hanging position first, that you could do 3 pull-ups?
Wait. A pull-up or a chin-up? Because they're different.
Say you did a underhand grab. Pull-up.
Yeah, I feel like...
But you have to go to a hanging position first. Completely let your body weight hang.
Oh, goodness.
And then you have to do 3 of them.
Yeah, what do I win?
I don't know. We'll have Joe get involved in this and watch this. Yeah. First off, I don't have a pull-up bar because I can't.
Good Lord.
Do you have a pull-up bar? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't like to use it.
All right. Here, you go to a hanging position and have your wife record you doing 3, and show Joe and I, and we'll go from there and we'll get you something.
All right.
Now, if you can't do 3,
we'll timestamp it so you get.
Sounds good.
All right.
I don't think you can do 3.
I'm just gonna run through my statements.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's cool. I just said, that's everything I imagine a Swiss bank to look like.
A Swiss bank, yes.
When you walk in, it's like super technological and everything. Except for the curtain for privacy. They couldn't go a little bit further to get like a soundproof booth for somebody.
All I know is I don't have that in my safe deposit box.
Can't afford it. Can't tell you. What else we got? CRT monitors. I had a question mark for countries that drive on the left side of the road.
Okay.
They're far and few between.
I have no idea. I couldn't speak to that.
The original writing utensil fighter.
Yep.
As far as the pen versus John Wick with a pencil.
Yep.
Here's one question that I couldn't figure out is why did the apartment assassin jump out of the window and kill himself?
Yeah.
Was it better for himself to suicide?
I think
he have a chance to survive by jumping out of the window?
Well, at the point he jumped out of the window, he'd been stabbed twice by the pin. He pulled the pin out of his hand. He had his leg and his arm broken. He probably thought that if I kill myself, I won't be shot by my own people later, and it will alert the authorities to catch Jason Bourne, was my only thinking. But he probably killed himself because, let's be fair, they don't take prisoners.
He's a team player.
Yep.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
I'll buy that. Julia Stiles, unnecessary star power.
Yep.
This movie. Garrett, would you let Matt Damon give you a haircut like he did to the other chick?
Nope. Nope.
Dye your hair?
Nope.
Okay. And then I had just a singular note, Eskimo kisses.
Who's he doing an Eskimo kiss with?
Well, with the love interest. Like after he cuts her hair.
Oh, I don't remember that part.
I felt that was so awkward. I must have wrote that down, like Eskimo kisses. Flip phones for cell phones. Here's a good note. Have you ever met a morgue worker in a movie that wasn't illegitimate? They always take money to allow people to go view dead bodies.
That's because there's nobody alive to note what's going on.
Yeah, who's going to call them out on it?
Yeah.
Who cares? I don't know. But then they come in afterwards like, oh, you can't just walk in whenever you want. Like,
yeah.
All right, whatever.
Okay.
Would you ever wear a collared, short sleeve shirt?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah, a button up.
Chris Cooper does.
Yep.
And it bothered me.
Okay. It's like the Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, it's exactly that. With a light yellow tone.
Wouldn't have.
Wouldn't have. I really enjoyed the dog's gone missing. How he picks up on the cube. That's huge for a character development
knows his environment.
How observant he is. Yeah.
How about when he's in the car before the car scene? They're like, he was like, "Do you maintain this car? Because the tires felt splashy on the way over here." Mm-hmm. Like, he just knows what's going on.
How tall is he? That car is like up to his waist.
It's like the Mini Cooper. Is that the first time that it's like a Mini Cooper's been in a movie?
No joke. You can't imagine that they were a sponsor for that movie, but
right.
Could they? My other note here: could they find something more subtle than speaking directly into the remote microphones when they're on that bridge with Chris Cooper? And he's got all those crew like sitting there, subtly standing by, and they pull up the collar. Hey, we're good over here. Thanks.
Yeah. No, I agree. They don't, the earpieces and stuff like that.
That's ridiculous.
But to be fair, throughout all the movies, he's going to be able to tell you where everybody's at.
And he knows what he's looking for too, which I understand, but it just comes across so blatantly.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay.
That's all I got.
Well, obviously, next week we're going to do the Bourne Supremacy, followed next week after that by the Bourne Ultimatum. Hopefully next week Joe's with us because we want to go over things like The Witcher, Stranger Things with him. We want to get him into the John Wick, Jason Bourne debate. In the meantime, go out to the Aliens and Cowboys podcast, give us a rating, 5 stars, leave us a review. If you want to tweet at us, we're at Alien and Cowboy. If you want to email us, aliensandcowboys@gmail.com. Like I said, we like to hear what you guys have to think about Jason Bourne. If you have viewpoints on the John Wick versus Jason Bourne debate, let us know. In the meantime, also, again, it's Watchmen for Nixon podcast. Go out there, subscribe to that, just because we will be releasing content on that podcast at some time that you won't get from the Aliens and Cowboys podcast that we will normally do. Again, things like the Watchmen movie review, the V for Vendetta movie review, as well as updates on the series coming out for fall this HBO, where we will cover that. So again, leave us a rating, 5 stars on that one. Subscribe to both of them. Email us. Anything else to add, Nate?
Yeah, if you want to complain about Joe, his voice, his tone, his word usage, please do.
Yeah. Just to remind you guys, too, like I said, on the trailer for the Watchmen for Nixon podcast, Joe does a 3-minute, basically, version of Bob Dylan's Times Are A-Changin'. So we're going to obviously cut that. That's going to be our theme song for that particular podcast. But obviously we like Joe when he sings a lot on this show. So
he's fantastic.
He is good.
He's the best talent we got.
Yeah, he's the face, he's the voice, he's the beard. So
he is the beard.
He is the beard. So go out there, like I said, give us a rating, leave us a review, let us know.
Also complain about me on that podcast. Not on this one in particular, but if you can go to
Watchmen for Nixon.
Watchmen for Nixon.
Yep.
You can. I prefer constructive criticism, but just leave any comment you would.
Yeah, he's not gonna. He won't probably be on that particular podcast often, but when he does, we'll make sure he gets in there.
I'd appreciate the.
Yep. But we're going to continue to do the Aliens and Cowboys podcast like we do every week. So stick with us here. Again, leave us a review. Let us know. Until then, guys, we'll see you next week with the Bourne Supremacy. Cheers.
Cheers.